We need to invest our pension funds, our mutual funds, in local businesses. And I have some thoughts about how we can do that. We need to spearhead buy local campaigns. We know that the best way of plugging the leaks in this economy is to get the people who live here to pay attention to the real goods and services available from local providers in Mendocino County. That is the home run. And everything that can be done to promote a local first campaign by consumers, by businesses, and by government agencies is what will truly drive economic development. So where I want to leave you is this. Where I want to leave you is with my dial-up connection. Thank you. You may recall that this scene was at the tail end of the last Indiana Jones movie. And what happened in the Indiana Jones movie was Indy kind of worked his way through snakes, spiders, flying blades, terrorists. He finally comes to this crypt where the Holy Grail is. And there's a 500-year-old guardian standing at the crypt and says, "Indiana, your last challenge will be to choose among these 50 goblets. Choose the one from which Christ drank, and choose wisely." Well, at that point, this guy, the German spy, jumps to the front and says, "I know which one Christ would have drunk from. It would have been the most ornate." Drinks from it, and he spontaneously combusts. At that point, the guardian says, "He chose poorly." Well, I would argue that this project is a classic example of choosing poorly. And you are really lucky. You're really lucky, because a lot of communities, when they have a bad choice like this, they have no opportunity to stop it. You have a great opportunity. All you have to do is to deny a change in zoning. That's all you have to do. It seems to me that in the absence of a coherent plan, or the absence of clues of a plan that make any economic sense, saying yes to a zoning change at this point is an Evel Knievel leap into an economic abyss. I would say that this is not an anti-growth position. This is pro-growth to the right things. Because saying no to the DDR project is saying yes to local businesses and yes to everything you really care about in your community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. And now we're going to hear from Marie Jones. And Marie is the Community Development Director in the city of Fort Bragg. She is responsible for all long-range and current planning activities, economic development, and for major city projects. She's a key player in the reuse of the GP Mill site, which is a 425-acre site that comprises 1/3 of the city of Fort Bragg. Other activities include the completion of the city's new economic development strategy, inclusionary housing ordinance, construction and demolition debris ordinance, green building program, coast trail master plan, and amendments to the general plan and land use development code. Prior to working for the city of Fort Bragg, Marie was principal of her own consulting firm, Marie Jones Consulting. For 5 years, she provided economic development, planning, real estate economics, and green building consulting assistance to a variety of public, nonprofit, and private clients in California. And some of the topics that she consulted on included economic development strategies, specific plan, general plan, sustainable city strategy, inclusionary housing, green building, development feasibility analysis in places all around California, it looks like from the list. all over the place. She's a LEED accredited professional and has a Master's of City Planning from Cornell and a BA in Environmental Studies from UC Santa Cruz. She grew up in Fort Bragg and graduated from Mendocino High School in 1983. Welcome.
I'm going to hold this up because I don't like these podium things. And I also just want to add something to that, in that I got invited to participate in this wonderful event about a week ago. So being a pitch hitter, I said, sure, I'll do it. A couple of the people who organized this had come to a presentation that I did in Fort Bragg about the GP mill site, and they thought I might have something to add to this. So I'll keep my comments brief because I think I can add a lot more during the question and answer period. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what zoning does and doesn't do. I think the first thing to realize is that DDR purchased this property as an industrial zoned property. And as such, it was valued at a very low value. When you do a rezone to a retail use, you basically increase the value of the property. So they're taking a risk by undertaking this project because it's not already entitled as a retail use. I also want to make it clear that that zoning change is a discretionary change on behalf of your Board of Supervisors. They can decide to do it or they can decide not to do it. What does the zoning change do for a property? Well, it increases the property value. It allows you to do something that you couldn't have done before. I think a change such as what's planned for this property, for all the reasons I think that you mentioned, is very short-sighted. That's my personal opinion, partially because it's a large enough property that you can do a lot more than just retail on it. You could maintain some of the site for industrial. You could do some housing. You could do, I could see some live work. You can do some light industrial. There are lots of other options. And in fact, the city of Fort Bragg, our Georgia Pacific mill site is actually zoned timber resources industrial. And for any zoning change to happen on that particular land use requires a specific plan. And a specific plan is a very detailed community-involved process that takes about a year and costs about $1 million. But it gives the opportunity for the community to really get involved in the vision, to do charrettes, to decide where things go, to decide what they want, to decide their priorities for that site. And it is a delicate balance between the city, the community, and the developer. But I think it's a very important activity to undertake for a project of this size and scope. Certainly for the city of Fort Bragg. I mean, it's a third of our city. It's all of our coastal waterfront. We wouldn't do it any other way. And this is a very important site for you because it has incredible freeway visibility. I mean, it's perfect location for a retail mall if it was somewhere else. And I say that a little bit flippantly, but it's more, I mean, I looked a lot at the EPS analysis and also DDR's retail leakage study. And I've done a lot of retail leakage studies for different communities. And in both of these retail leakage analyses, I see 3 major flaws besides the ones that were already mentioned. One is that the retail trade area, especially in the EPS one, is way overly broad. I don't picture people from the east side of Lake County driving to Ukiah to shop. And frankly, a lot of people from Fort Bragg, sorry, we don't really shop here, actually. We go to San Francisco. We make it a whole event because we got to get out of Fort Bragg every now and then or we go crazy. That's just the reality. So the idea that you could capture all of that leakage is completely nonsensical. And both studies assumed that you would capture 100% of your leakage, which is not accurate. And then also, as you mentioned, the leakage is in entirely different categories than what they're recommending for a build. So from that perspective, I think it's certainly inadequate. So what do you do instead? Well, a lot of people talk about mixed use. And one of the reasons that many developers, such as DDR, shy away from mixed use is because they don't know how to do it. So they've purchased a property, and they know how to do retail. And they feel very confident with it. And when the community says we want mixed use, they actually don't know how to do that. They don't understand the housing market. They don't understand the office market. So they can't do it. Right? So that's part of the reason why you're getting pushback from that category. I made a ton of notes, which I'm not going to cover now because you covered so much of it so well. But I do also want to provide a little nuance about what some of the interests are in this project that maybe weren't discussed so far today. And that is where the tax revenues from the sales tax actually go for this project. Right now, most of the big box retail is located in the city of Ukiah, which means a large